variables, constants, and coefficients. My first expression at A has one term, and it's only a constant of 3. There's no variable, no coefficient. Next, again at B, one term, the variable is x, the coefficient is 5. That's what x is being times by. Remember, that means 5 times x. There's no constant. C, I've got a variable of x. I've got a constant of -1. So you'll see there's two terms here. 1, 2. Remember to include your minus. If you haven't done so, please add it in, because -1 is different from 1. If it was a plus, you wouldn't have to include the plus, because we assume a number is positive when there's a plus or when there's no symbol. What about the coefficient here? If I have an x, how many x's do I have? 1. So what am I timesing x by? This part could literally mean x times 1 or 1 times x, right? And then I'm also subtracting the 1. So x times 1. We never write a little 1 there in front of the x, but we could. But that's so any variable by itself does have the coefficient of 1. Lastly, and this is quite a tricky example for grade 7, but this is 1, 2, 3, 4 terms. Remember, terms are separated by plus and minus symbols. We will look into more of this next term. So if this is a little tricky, just see it as one example to get you going. X over 2, okay, you can clearly see your variables being a x, a n, and a y. That's not too difficult. There's actually only one constant, and that's the -4. But then what about this 7 and this 3? Well, they count as coefficients because they are being multiplied by my variables or divided by my variables. So these two are in fact, the -3 and the +7 are in fact not constants. I'm sure I caught you out with that. The coefficients then would be, let's start with the coefficient of the x. What is x being times by? It's not being times, it's being divided by 2. But x divided by 2, scribble here, x divided by 2 is the same as saying x times a half. That's half of x, right? So that's why the coefficient is a half. I guess you could have also said 0,5. Next, my coefficient for the n is -3, because that's what I'm timesing by, and you'll see I include the symbol, the negative. And this one is quite a tricky one, so let's just say that the coefficient of this y is 7 right now. In high school, you can look into examples like that in detail, but this is really not a grade 7 type of term.